You're listening to the Pathless Path. We're two women figuring it out as we go. This isn't about perfection.
It's about staying rooted in truth, not trends, and having the conversations most people avoid. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Pathless Path. In today's episode, we are going to talk about 5 signs that you're more spiritual than you realize.
We often think spirituality only shows up in big moments, retreats, visions, epic breakthroughs. But what if it's hiding in plain sight?
Today, we'll walk you through 5 subtle clues that you're already on a spiritual path, even if it doesn't feel dramatic.
So, what's one everyday moment, Naya, that you've had that felt like magical, like it was magical, but you just kind of shrugged it off? You didn't think much of it.
So yeah, I've had an everyday moment, and actually, interestingly enough, it was a connection to my teas. I I drank tea so much for years without realizing today, because I work with sacred medicine now and with herbs and teas, and I'm really realizing that teas are actually part of my sacred magical ritual. How about you?
For me, I think like looking back on something that had happened, like it's always something nature based. I think with me, there was one time I was at the community pool with one of my friends, very slow day, no one around us. And we're hanging out by the pool, we're waiting around in the water. And there was I don't know. I guess it would be considered a swarm. It was a swarm of dragonflies that flew out. I don't from like a corner that from where like we were positioned. And of course, me not being on the path that I'm on now, I just kind of chalked it up. I'm like, oh, great. It's the end of the world. Here we go. But, like when I look back on it, I'm kind of like, was like the universe was spirit talking to me like, yes, take this time for yourself, slow down, take it all in, rest, relax. I just, in my sarcastic way that I used to be in, that was where my mind went. I was like, oh great, it's like the apocalypse going on. And not realizing the connection, or remembering, I should say, the connection between dragonflies and myself. Because when my grandfather passed away and we scattered his ashes, or I wasn't around, I was still really small, but my grandmother said that it had taken the shape of a dragonfly. And I totally didn't even look at the connection of the dragonflies and the swarm of dragonflies in that time, and really kind of like let it absorb into me. So that would have been like everyday moment that I went, okay. I looked on the sarcastic side and didn't look at what the universe was trying to show me or point me in what direction.
Mhm. What a lesson, huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. It was pretty deep.
I can imagine using your sarcasm as a mechanism, as a coping mechanism, because that's also another thing that we do. We're like, yeah, I'm very sarcastic. But you become sarcastic because those are conditioning that we have over time, because you're like, well, if I make somebody laugh, or if I'm being sarcastic, other people won't hurt me, other people won't do these things, right? So that's just really interesting. So have you ever woken up with a vivid dream or stumbled into a synchronicity that was so perfect that it stopped you in your tracks?
I know, like in our discussions, we had like a little chit chat about like different things and stuff. There was this one time, it wasn't like a dream or anything. I was working in the crystal store, which crystal store. And I was having a conversation with my friend, because being on this path, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel kind of lost, kind of like a fish out of water. Like, how do I really understand or tap in, or is what I'm feeling actually true, like what I'm experiencing. And a customer came in that day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we chit-chatted, we talked about some stuff that was going on in their life. They were looking for another crystal, and I kept going back to this one particular crystal, and I was like, I feel like this is the crystal that you're needing right now. Like, we kind of floated around the store and looked at other things and chit chatted, but I kept going back to this one particular crystal. And so they, they purchased it, they left, they said goodbye, everything. They called back into the store a little bit later and asked to speak with me and told me that they had gone home and they had read up on it, and there were things medically that she was going through, and it was so aligned. And she's like, I don't know how to say thank you for helping me locate something that I actually needed. Like, this is something I've been trying to work on. I didn't know what it was. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know like how to really trust my intuition. So I chalked it up to it being like a coincidence, but really and truly, it's like a synchronicity of not knowing, having that conversation, and then it panning out to help somebody else. So it came full circle for me on that day. So I was really happy about that.
Was that recent or that was a few years ago? Like how far back are we talking
That
about
was
this?
that was about so we graduated 2 years ago. So I want to say it was about a year and a half ago while I was still working at the crystal store and everything. So yeah, it's recent enough where like me being on that path, like as I started to grow um in trusting my intuition, that's that's kind of like how it started to progress and everything. How about you?
Hmm. So at the beginning of the question, I was like, I don't know. But and then of course I've had both. I've had vivid dreams a few times and then I've had many synchronicities and I was trying to think of it. I was like, "Oh my god, what can I tell you?" And actually I'm going to go with a synchronicity that happened in 2023 when my journey with medicine actually started. So back in 2011, I had done mushrooms with friends and I had just gotten over a breakup and I took the medicine and I didn't feel anything. I drank it, I ate it, I didn't feel anything with the medicine. And I was told by many people that if you take medicine while you're drinking, or if you're taking medicine, at this point, it wasn't medicine, we're just doing it for fun. But if you're taking it for recreationally, then and you're drinking and you're going through a breakup, you may not see anything, or you may. But in my case, I didn't see anything. And I was like, okay, cool. Lesson learned. So I never did it again because I was like, what's the point? I don't feel anything. Fast forward to 2023, we're in Reiki Master Program again. And I was having a lot of neck and back pain. And I remember feeling like, oh my God, like going to the doctors, doing physical therapy, taking medication on a daily basis, like this, being tested with like MRIs and all of those testing. I was like, none of it makes sense. Like, why is this happening to me? I'm on my spiritual journey. Like, how and why? And one of our classmates had mentioned that she was doing a ceremony of combo and that she would think that it would help me. And one of our teachers, our Reiki master teacher, had also mentioned about combo and she knew a facilitator in Florida. And I was like, perfect. Not knowing much about it, but still getting the information from the two sources or the three sources, including the facilitator. And I was like, okay, cool, let's try this. I did. And I walked out of there with like, if I knew how to do a backflip, I would have. And my neck and my back was completely back to normal. My body felt fantastic. And I was like, okay, great. Then at the end of 2023, in October of 2023, I ended up by moving to Mexico. And in December of 2023 was my first medicine with ayahuasca. And fast forward to today, year 2025, and I have deepened so much with sacred medicine. And then now I'm like seeing all the patterns and I'm like, oh my God, me drinking my teas, me eating a certain way, me being in this. I've been doing this ritual before I even knew I was supposed to be in medicine, because now when they're like pre ceremonies, you can't eat this, you can't. I'm like, I don't eat that anyway. So it was like all of these patterns or all of these things that I noticed. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. So that's kind of like a a heavy and a long time synchronous. I mean, it took from 2011 to 2023 to 2025. I mean, it's been layered. So it's not a synchronicity that happened over time, but it did stop me in my track, because when I realized, and I was like, "Oh my god, is this what I'm supposed to be doing?" And the answer is yes, because this is where I'm at today.
I love that. I love that. I got like chills when you were telling me about those synchronicities. Speaking about synchronicities and me going into like getting chills when you were telling me about that story, is there like a body signal that you get, like a nudge or a flutter in your chest, that now you know that's like a sign, it's a message, like you've recognized that it's like your body telling you, it's the universe talking to you, spirit talking to you?
Yes. So the message that I typically get is I get chills. I get chills, and depends some part of my body, my arms, my legs. I get chills in my back, down my spine. So those are like things that like I know. And also just there's a just clear knowing of I know. And it's in my gut. And it's just like I know this. Without, and I couldn't even explain to you how I know, but I'm listening to it. And every time I've decided to not listen to it, it backfired. My body would be like, "I've been telling you this. Why aren't you not listening to me?" And I'm like, and then later on when it happens, I was like, "Oh no." So now I just listen to it. I just know what it is, and I recognize the signals, and I definitely go with like the chills could be anywhere really on my body, and just inner knowing of myself and my gut. Those are my clear messages. How about you? What are your messages? How do you get them?
For me, it's kind of like morphed over time. So I pick up on scents a lot. I'm very sensitive. So like I know there is a certain, I I haven't really figured out exactly which deity comes to me, and I've been trying to like research and find out a little bit more, but I always get I always smell tobacco when like that particular deity is around me, God is around me, saint is around me that I'm like working with, like I'm like in it. I always smell tobacco, and then I always get a sensation down my left shoulder, straight down. It's like this, it when I think about it and when I visualize it, it always looks blue, almost like a neon light. That's how I always see it whenever I feel the presence and I'm like trying to connect with me. I always get that sensation down my left side, and it always looks blue. And then um there's another saint that I normally like channel or work with, and on my right side it always looks purple, and it's always like a neon, it's always like those flashing neons. So that's how I my body kind of uh allows me to know what's going on, like there is something that's happening. um and I get a gut feeling every once in a while, but it's normally scent that triggers me to be like, you need to stop and you need to listen, or you need to pay attention to something that's going around. That's normally how my body triggers me, because it's not something that is like, if you look around, if I'm like walking around or whatnot, it's not something that you would just pick up. Like it's not a
Mhm.
sense that's like, oh, okay, yes, I should smell tobacco right now. There's
Yeah.
nobody around saw me pitch black outside, walking the dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then I perk up and I go, okay, hold on. What are we dealing with here?
Uh-huh.
What message that I am supposed to get?
I do wanna add that I have also recently actually, because you said morphed, and I was like, "Oh." I'm like, "Wait." But I have since I got back from the desert, which was, like, 3 weeks ago, I have been smelling things. That has been interesting. I don't know what that means. I haven't got there. It's very new, and I feel that I probably am gonna be smelling more of whatever that is. I've been smelling a lot of perfumes, and the other day I smelt something, and I was trying to put a sense or a feeling to what that smell was, and I couldn't remember what it was, but it's something that was familiar to me.
Hmm.
So, I don't know. That was one thing, and then also another thing that's kinda, like, recent because after I ask you the question and you start to talk, my left ear got clogged. My left ear, like, started to, like I couldn't hear anything. It's like, they usually say, like, left ear, somebody's talking bad about you, right ear, somebody it's
Yeah.
like one of those things, right? Like, the superstitions or whatever you wanna call them. But when you started to talk, like, my left ear was just kinda like, "Oh." So I was like, "I don't know what that means," and that happened a few times before too, where, like, it's almost like you got cotton in your ear and you can't hear anything. That
Hmm.
also happened.
Ooh.
But, yeah, those are new things. Have you looked yours up? Like, what do they mean? Like, asked about it? Have you, like, looked them up? Have you got any, like have you asked
I've
your
looked up
guides?
a couple of I've had conversations about who is kind of like helping me and trying to connect like the scent that I'm getting. So there are a few of them that are out there that are connected to certain scents. Like I know 100% when I smell roses, I know it's Mother Mary that, like I'm working with her energy. So anytime I smell roses, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I'm working with. This is the person that has come to help me on whatever journey I'm working on right now. When I'm like journaling, meditating, working on myself, I'll get different smells and I'm like, okay, so every time I have or I'm like doing a meditation, I do jot it down like in a book. I'm like, okay, what did this kind of smell like? Um, and I need to, like go back and look and say, okay, what saint might be connected to that particular scent? Because they're all connected to something. And there's several of them that are connected to the same kind of scent. So it's kind of like, okay, it's a process of elimination, doing different things to kind of figure out, okay, is it this? Is it you? Sometimes I get visions of lotuses, and I'm like, okay, what is this supposed to mean?
And sometimes you don't get the answers.
No, sometimes you don't, and that's what's very annoying sometimes.
It's
Woo!
very frustrating, yeah, because 'cause you'll get a clue and you know that clue is, like, the puzzle to, like, your thing, like, your growth or your connection to your spirituality. You know it means some things, but, like, you don't know how and why. Again, that's your intuition talking, but, like, the clue doesn't make sense. You're like, "Well, I don't know this. I don't get this." And then years later, it comes up and you're like, "Oh my god, I knew this."
It's that synchronicity. You're like, "Oh,
There
like,
it is.
why did it take you so long to show up? I've been asking this question for how long?"
Because your body wasn't ready, you weren't ready to get it, or they're tricking you, but either way, you weren't ready.
Fine,
It's
if you say
funny how the spiritual realm works with us, like, they're tricksters. Your face.
I'm gonna call them foxes, tricksters.
Oh my goodness. Alright, let's go to our next question. When have you felt an unexpected wave of kindness or empathy that surprised even you? And that a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. So for a lot of so some of the listeners and everything, I'm still working my 9 to 5, and I'm pretty sure I've brought that up a couple of times at this point. And in my role, I recently stepped away from, I was doing mentoring. So I train the like new hires that come in on like the process, the SOP, stuff like that. Um, and I got a message. This is so funny that this is this question, because I got a message from one of my mentees or trainees, and they were just like, Kiki, I just wanted to reach out to you and say thank you so much for being a part of my training and how I've helped them along and how I was able to teach them and how like I created such a safe space for them to ask the questions, to find out more, to learn. That it was also one of the only people, they were outside because they were able to go outside of the office. They were outside and they were like, I'm just not feeling really well. And it wasn't a busy day. So I told them to take their shoes off and go walk on the grass outside. So it was just one of those things. And they were just so genuine about, being so thankful for it. And I was just sitting there like, I'm not crying at all. I'm not crying. Like I was like, thanks. That really means a lot, because sometimes you don't know how you're helping. You are helping. You are a person of service and stuff. But you just don't know exactly how you're impacting someone until you kind of get that feedback. And uh, that was that was like a lot for me to take in yesterday. How about you?
Yesterday was a heavy day for me, and what I'm about to talk about, the empathy, um, is kind of like deep for me. So, as we know by now, I was in a ceremony about 3 weeks ago. So, I recently got back from a peyote ceremony in the desert, and I was working, which means that like I was working on myself. So, to go to a ceremony is the first step, but then you, especially with peyote, you get to see certain things and you decide if you want to work on them in front of the fire or not. That's the way that this shaman does her ceremonies. And I decided on the second day, because we stayed 3 days in the desert, on the second day of the ceremony, second morning, I decided to share my story with my family members, my mother and my dad, and I told my stories in front of everybody well, the people that were still awake, because we were sleeping in the desert. So not everybody was awake, but a lot of people were still there. And that was our first night of ceremony. And I shared my story to my shaman, to these people that were listening in front of the fire, and we had worked on it. And it's kind of like doing a constellation, a family constellation, no, constellation with the stars.
Yes. For the stars, yes.
It was like a family constellations that we did in front of the fire with the shaman and all of those people listening. And the next day, we went to this tree in the desert and we gave ofrendas to the tree. These We were all hugging each other. And this girl came up to me and she said to me, she goes, "Thank you so much for doing the work and for sharing your story. Your story resonated so much with my story." Me thinking, not that I'm the only child and the only person in the world living like this, but me thinking that no one has a story like mine. And there you are. I told it in front of these people, and there is one person that it resonated with. And I was blown away that it made me cry. I was ugly crying because it was such a beautiful thing that she said to me. I didn't think that it was something that people could relate to. And then there was a guy that came up to me and he's like, "Thank you so much for sharing your story because I am similar to your father. I am dealing as well with, drug addiction." And I was like, whoa, that was so beautiful that essentially two people, came to me and told me this. So that was really, really, really beautiful to watch that unfold away, not just in a ceremony. And if I'm able to do that in a ceremony, what is it that I can do? Like having a podcast and talking about this and having, our my Instagram account and sharing this. I think it's important because we always think that, oh, our stories don't relate, but yeah, we do, and we can help each other. And this is part of being in the community, and this is what we need. So I feel like it's important to share these kinds of things. Even when we think our stories are silly, it's not. It's not. Just tell your story. Tell what you went through because it can help somebody else.
And I just want to touch on that too, just a little bit, because I think in society we've been taught to just kind of like shove it down and work on something else and just keep going and going and going, and this has formed such a disconnect between all of us that we don't know or we don't understand what a sense of community is. And that is, like telling stories. If you think about the elders in tribes and everything, we everybody learns in that new generation through storytelling. People learn how to heal through that, and that's just something that nobody's talking about anymore. Nobody's sharing. Everybody's just like they're they're drowning all of their emotions with something else, and they're adding something else on top of it and never really dealing with it and never really healing, and still trying to figure out, well, why is this still happening? And it's because you're not doing the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But sharing your story is beautiful, and I love that. I do.
Yeah, I do agree. I feel well. The thing is, I feel like today we're going back to society. I feel like we're drowning in society drama. We don't
Yes.
need the drama. We need the raw. We need the real. We need the authentic. We need the honest. We need the you. When can you shed that off? Be honest with yourself because you can tell people anything you want and you can be lying to them, and that's fine. Just remember, at the end of the day, you're lying to yourself, and that you cannot be on a spiritual growth, my friend, if you are lying, because that will come back. And this could be a reason why you're blocked, or this could be a reason why your spirituality isn't growing, or this could be a million and one reason why this is happening to you. Maybe it's a form of karma. Who knows? But you're doing it to yourself. Just know that. The moment you've decided to be true and authentic and raw and shed all of those layers of you that no longer matters, you are gonna explode into your growth journey. And the other thing too that you mentioned was our elders. That's exactly what my journey is about. It's about reconnecting from our elders, reconnecting from the grandfathers I never got to meet because they died before I was born. I had both grandmothers, my Vietnamese grandmother and my Colombian grandmother, but none of them taught me their ways. None of them taught me the Colombian way or the Vietnamese way. And I feel like there's been a huge gap that's been disconnected with my generation.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's time that we bring this back. It's time that we go back to our roots. It is time that we go back to our lineage. It is time that we go back to where we come from. Because when we go back and understand where we come from, we can help us on a collective level to grow this world to be better, because we cannot make the world a better place if we are not trying to work on ourselves. And that doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that everyone has their things going on. But if you're not working on those things and peeling off the layers, it is going to be so difficult to heal the world. And that
Yes.
is the job that we have to do. This is our mission. This is why you're here. This is why you're listening to this podcast. This is why we are here. This is why we created this community. This is why. That is all I wanted to add to what you were saying. I'm sorry it took a little longer, but I wanted to add this in addition because it resonated with what you were saying.
Yes.
living in a society that is disconnecting us from our true gifts, our true selves. We're not here. We're not born to go to school. Well, we're not born to essentially go to school for years, get out, go get a 9 to 5, go to work every day, retire, and then die. That is not living your life. That is called imprisonment.
It's
You
programming.
It's programming. You create your life. You are your author, you are your creator, you are the divine that creates your life. So do it.
Woo!
I got a
That
bunch of chills when I was saying all of this, by the
moment,
way.
I was
So
like, "Woo!"
I
You
must
feel
have
like
been channeling because while I was going through this, like channel came through me and I felt on both sides. I was like, oh my God, my guides are here. Not
thank
me
you.
crying. Always thank you. They know
Always
we're like
grateful,
this.
right?
We're like this.
Always grateful. What's a small ritual night that you something maybe like gazing into the sky or lighting a candle or brewing your teas that brings you that moment of quiet connection?
The quiet connection with myself, my spirits, or just disconnected myself from the world.
Just connecting yourself from the world and connecting yourself with spirit.
I have a lot of them actually. Um, Sitting down by the beach, stargazing, just being by the ocean, really for me, or by the water. That well, I live by the ocean, and I've lived by the ocean when I was in Florida too. So the ocean has been a good place for me. But it could be any type of water. It could be a river. It could be, a cenote here in Mexico. It could be any of those things that really anything that's with water related. Then there is the barefoot walking. Then there is walking into the forest, going hiking. Then I have moments of just my meditation moments, my journaling moments, my brewing tea. That's a daily ritual. That is, I do that every single day because I drink tea every day. And then my other thing too is when I really feel there's two other things that I do. I smoke mapacho. So mapacho, for those of you who don't know, who are new to sacred medicine, mapacho is tobacco, but it comes from the south of America, and it's directly the plant. So it has no chemicals as normal cigarettes. So it is pure. We don't inhale the smoke. It just goes into your mouth, and then you release it like you would smoke normally. And that I connect with mapacho because mapacho comes from a grandfather, essentially, spirit, if we will. It's the abuelos. And I connect a lot with because I don't know any of my abuelos. I haven't never met any of my grandfathers. So I feel very, very, very connected to mapacho. And the other one that I also do is my ecstatic dance. I love to dance at home. Well, I love to dance at the ecstatic dance place that we go to once or twice a month. But right now, because it's slow season here in Mexico, they are not doing them until October. And I have found that I started to love dancing in my own apartment and just going full ecstatic in my place, having a playlist of few musics that I'm listening to and let it go. Just dance for 20, 30 minutes, a week or every other day or something like that has been phenomenal for me. It has really helped me to quiet the noise in my mind when things aren't making sense. Or if I'm working on the computer and then I notice that because most of the time, unless when I'm editing, I have music on my computer. It could be literally about anything. It could be a frequency music. It could be any type of music. And sometimes I'm like called to be like dancing. I'm like, oh, this song, and my body's just going. I'm like, okay, time to pause the work. Let's time it out. Now I need to go and start dancing. And so that's exactly what I do. I'll go in my living room and I just start dancing, and It's a great workout. It's a great way to reconnect to my femininity, and which is also part of what I'm working on. And it's a great way to just connect with yourself and shut down the mind because you're just flowing with the music that nothing else matters. Nothing. How about you? What are your connections? What are your rituals?
For me, just like you, similar, I'm very, very thankful that in my community there's a lake that's not far from my house, just a couple feet. So I like to go there and just sit and stare at the wall. And I could be there for 5 minutes, I could be there for 30 minutes. I like to do, our listeners will get a kick out of it. I like to do what I call sunflowering, where I stand with my feet on the ground and I just lift my head up and just bask in it and just feel like, because we all need those light codes, and just feeling that, feeling grounded, envisioning like roots growing into the ground, my foundation. Um, so that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing, always being around water as well, as I had said. And then right now I'm on like a weight loss journey. So th- there are times where I'm like, okay, today's a headphone kind of day. I want to kind of listen to pumped music to get me through this workout. And then there are other days that I'm like, this is a silent walk today. And I don't play any music. And I listen to the birds. I listen to the squirrels rummaging around. I listen to the ducks and the flapping of their wings. Um, the fishes when they're jumping in and out of the canal and stuff like that. I just listen to nature and enjoy it and really take it in. Um, and that really helps me disconnect from everything else and connect to something that's uh, more ancient, that like reminds me that there's a different rhythm, or that I have my own rhythm. That's what I like to do. That's like a daily ritual for me when I do my walks on a morning, or even if I do my walks on the evening. What also brings me a lot of joy on my walks is just seeing, I've kind of seen a lot of people starting to do the same thing. Like people that I have just seen like walking their dogs and stuff. Now all of a sudden it's like we've become this big community, and they used to just say hi to everyone, and it feels really warm. It makes me really happy just to see everybody in the community. Um because again, I always feel like there's a disconnect where we're always like really in our heads. We've got a lot of things going on, and I think if you take the time to just have that time of silence, that's when you could really connect. That's what's like really big for me in rituals.
It sounds to me like you started a community over there with bringing your dogs, and look at that. Tell them all about the podcast.
Tell them all. Yes. No, 100%. I can't shut up about the podcast.
Oh, you and I both. But yeah, that's just funny. Like bring those people in, be like, "Oh, you see nature? Come listen to us in the podcast. We talk about that too."
Exactly.
All right, guys. So we would love for you to pick one of these signs and watch it over the next week.
Snap a note or take a quick photo when it happens. Then tag us on Instagram so we can celebrate a win with you.
Yes, we want to win with you. Share it with us.
Stay weird, guys.
Stay wild, folks.
If this resonated, please leave us a review so others can find our show.
And share this episode with someone who needs to see the magic in every day. That's it for today. If something hits home, share it or just sit with it.
Follow the show. We've got more coming soon.